Relentless surrender. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, it was almost a year ago to the day that the UN heard from an American president who was unabashedly proud of our country, who knew that America is freest when we're strong, happy, prosperous.
For decades, the same tired voices proposed the same failed solutions, pursuing global ambitions at the expense of their own people. But only when you take care of your own citizens will you find a true basis for cooperation. As president, I have rejected the failed approaches of the past, and I am proudly putting America first, just as you should be putting your countries first.
Oh, what a difference a year makes.
As a global community, we're challenged by urgent and looming crises, wherein lie enormous opportunities if we can summon the will and resolve to seize these opportunities. Will we meet the threat of challenging climate, or will we suffer the merciless march of ever-worsening droughts and floods, more intense fires and hurricanes, longer heat waves, and rising seas?
My stomach was turning the same color as that UN wall there. So depressing. Sure, he did give a nod to how we're going to stand up against terror and defend ourselves and our allies, but most of it came off as the usual internationalist mush you'd hear at a, I don't know, like a Davos panel discussion maybe.
As we close this period of relentless war, we're opening a new era of relentless diplomacy, of using the power of our development aid to invest in new ways of lifting people up around the world, of renewing and defending democracy.
Wait. Before Biden worries about lifting people up around the world, he should try lifting people up around America. A new poll found that on that very important question, our citizens are increasingly pessimistic. 54% of registered voters say the country is heading in the wrong direction. 41% say it's on the right track. That's a stark difference from June. It's basically inverted when 53% of voters said the country was on the right track. Wow. Well, it's no wonder. Biden is a one-man wrecking ball of a president. Everything he touches, I'm talking everything, every initiative he undertakes, blows up on the American people. Now, the man who pledged to solve COVID has presided over approximately 234,000 COVID deaths. And that's with the vaccines that the Trump administration handed him. Now, whenever the opportunity presents itself, Biden and company resort to threatening, bullying, punishing, and isolating Americans who, for whatever reason, weren't convinced by their vaccine lobbying. And now millions of parents, even those who have been vaccinated themselves, are outraged at coming vaccine mandates for kids. Now, when you really think about it, if Fauci could vaccinate infants in utero, he would. The risk-benefit analysis is just completely irrelevant. Now, if Biden were smart, he would have nicely shown Dr. Fauci the door long ago. But let's face it, none of them can really quit COVID because they like controlling people. And it's a good excuse to force mail-in ballots next year. That's an added bonus. Now, it may sound simplistic, but I think packed college football stadiums tell us a heck of a lot about the direction we're headed in politically next year. And it's not toward Biden. On the economy, Biden wants us all to surrender to the climate crazies, eliminate oil and gas as soon as possible, and live in a world where we travel less and earn less. Skyrocketing gas prices, inflation, tax hikes, it's all the cost of doing business in Biden's America. And Americans who are struggling now to pay the bills, I guess they're supposed to just sit back and applaud when social justice fashionistas like AOC glide in and out of fancy galas and smile for the cameras. But where they don't want the cameras is where the real story gets really ugly for Biden. That's at our southern border. The scenes in Del Rio look like refugee camps in Sudan. Squalor, hunger, children crying, makeshift shelters, pleas for help. Is this what Biden meant by Build Back Better? It's criminal what they're doing. It's all part of Biden's nefarious and purposeful surrender of American sovereignty. But don't you dare ask him about it.
We got a lot of work to do, so thank you all very much.
Does the regime press have a shred of dignity left? I mean, did they ever say no to the handlers of Biden who are always nudging Biden toward the exit or urging him not to speak? Think about the contrast from how they comported themselves when Trump was standing on stage.
Mr. President, if I may ask
Peter,
one other
go ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President,
That's
I was
enough.
going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
Excuse
President,
me. That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question,
let's
if
go.
I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned?
What a buffoon. But now it's the media's relentless surrender of their own integrity, all to prop up a flailing, failing president. Now, on the international front, of course, the Biden implosion is just as stark. Beyond Afghanistan, with all the carnage there, we're in a losing struggle with the CCP, and Biden somehow thinks he can make it all better by sucking up to them.
All of the major powers of the world have a duty, in my view, to carefully manage their relationships so they do not tip from responsible competition to conflict. The United States will compete, and will compete vigorously, and lead with our values and our strength. We'll stand up for our allies and our friends. We are not seeking a new Cold War or a world divided into rigid blocks.
Now, who on earth is writing this limp prose? Well, they obviously have no idea how the Chinese mind actually works and plots. This is all seen as a complete abdication, relentless weakness in the face of a China poised to overtake us economically and militarily if we don't turn things around. The fact is, the climate plan that Biden is so proud of is a recipe for our economic suicide. And as China watches Secretary Blinken sputter and as they hear John Kerry drone on, they just laugh. Is this administration really this naive? By killing our oil and gas industry, we'll be fulfilling the left-wing fantasy, though, of looking more like Europe. One problem. Europe's now in the middle of their own energy crisis. And of course, Europe has always preferred, though, a weaker America. That way, they can exploit our old alliance, free ride off our goodwill, then demand more concessions when they don't get their way.
What I will say about Joe Biden dealing with the new American president, yes, it is a breath of fresh air in the sense that there are some things on which we can really, really work together.
The issues we discuss in our partnership today really do reach out to so many others in terms of how we address the global challenges.
Now, what a good old pal he is. Well, Biden's relentless surrender may poll well on the other side of the pond and down under, but he's hemorrhaging support here. In battleground states such as Iowa, he currently has lower poll numbers than Trump had at the height of the pandemic and impeachment. And if Biden continues down this path of relentless surrender at home and abroad, he'll face a relentless red wave in 2022. And that's the angle.